This is a very well-known passage. We heard it probably many times in our life. I've heard it since childhood. Very well-known story of Jesus walking on the water. Here we see that Jesus had a long day before he spent the whole day teaching parables, doing miracles. He fed 5,000 people. And he tells his disciples to go to the side because he wants to be alone to spend time with God. So the disciples go, do what Jesus tells them. But there's a problem. Their journey is not very smooth. There's a big storm in their way. And many times we believe that if God sends us somewhere, we're going to have a very smooth journey. We no problems. We get from point A to point B with no problem. Here we see Jesus sent his disciples on a journey. There's a big storm in their way. And this storm is so big that the disciples, who most of them are fishermen, who spend their life on the water, so big that they're afraid. Many times also have these storms in our life. They're so big, and we're afraid. We don't know what to do. Jesus comes to help his disciples. They don't know who he is. They think it's a ghost. And here it says they cry out in fear. Did you ever see grown men cry out in fear? It's pretty embarrassing. So Chuck right now, cry out in fear of something. You see?
There you go. There you go.
You have to be really afraid of something to cry out in fear if you're a grown man.
Yeah.
And Jesus says to him, take heart. Don't be afraid. It's me. So Peter here takes a big step of faith and says, Lord, if it is you, let me go in water towards you. This reminds me of a great song from one of my favorite bands called Casting Crowns, called Voice of Truth. The opening line of the song says, oh, what I would do to have the kind of faith it takes to climb out of this boat I'm in and step off the crashing wave. You see, Peter here takes a great step of faith and says, Lord, if it is you, let me walk on water towards you. Jesus lets him, and Peter gets out of the boat, and he walks on water. The first and only time in human history where a man walks on water. Here, his vision is on God, his focus is on Jesus, and he's walking on the water in the middle of a storm without any fear. But what happens? He takes his view of God and looks at the water.
Yeah.
He takes his eyes of God, looks at the wind, looks at the storm that he is in. It says fear came into his heart, and he started to sink. The same person, the same situation, two very different results. First, Peter has his eyes on Jesus, and he's walking on water without any fear. Peter looks at the storm, looks at the problem he's in. Fear comes into his life, and he starts to sink. The outcome of my sermon today is having our eyes on God, and our fears will go away. See, when fear comes into our life, when fear stares us in the face, if it's a tragic moment, or it's a moment of uncertainty, or something else that gives us fear, at that moment in our life, we have a choice. And the choice is where we focus our attention. And we can either look at our problem, or we can look at our God. We can look at our problem and see how big our problem is, that there's no way out for us. Or we can look at our God and see how big our God is, and how small our problem is compared to the greatness of our God. Right now I will talk about the story of David. David who spent his life looking at God, and he had no fear. I want to read Psalm 27:1, which is my favorite verse in the whole Bible. Psalm 27:1. David here says, the Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the stronghold of my life. Why shall I be afraid? Out of all the people in the Bible, you would think from a human point of view, David had a big reason to be afraid. He spent most of his life being chased by Saul. After he became king, he spent a large portion of his life being chased by his own son.
Yeah.
But he was a king who was fleeing in the cave, fleeing in the mountains from his own son. And I think he had a great reason to be afraid. But here he says, why? The Lord is my light. Why shall I be afraid? And the thing is, David didn't see just God for being God. He saw who God was. And here he describes God as being his light, as the Lord is my salvation, the Lord is my stronghold. And today I'd like to talk about these three things: light, salvation, and stronghold. And try to prove to you, to give you this hope that you should not be afraid. The Lord is with you. Amen. The first thing we see, the Lord is, David says, the Lord is my light. The Lord is also our light. In a recent poll, it's not really so recent, but 2008 poll, they polled the whole world to see who had the biggest fear, what fear was the most common in people. They had the top 50 results. In fourth place was fear of darkness. And they said, this darkness is physical darkness, also mental darkness, and spiritual darkness. They're all put out into one category of darkness, where you think you're alone in the dark and there is no way out. People are afraid of darkness. And if you look at it from a human point of view, there's a reason for that. When you're in the dark, you don't know where you are. Let's say you wake up next morning, and you wake up, everything is dark around you. You'll be afraid. The first reason for you being afraid is because you know where you are. It could even be your house, it could even be your room, but if it's all dark and you know where you are, you would be afraid. The second reason why darkness is scary is because you don't know what obstacles are around you. You don't know if there's any holes you can fall into. You don't know if there's any way you can stub your toes. You don't know if there's any danger around you. That's why darkness is scary. I think the third reason, the biggest reason for me, is when you're in the dark, you can't see a way out of the situation. When you're in the dark, you can't see the exit sign, you can't see the door that will lead you out. What happens if you're in a room and someone puts the light switch on? All your problems now are gone. Now you know where you are. Now you know what obstacles are around you. You can see where the hole is, you can get past. And the biggest thing is you see a way out of your problem. That's what David says here. The Lord is my light. The Lord was with him, and his light was with him. So when David had this fear in his life, and he had this choice, look at his problem or look at his God, he saw the Lord was with him. The light was with him. This gave him no reason to be afraid of darkness. Today we also have this choice in front of us. Every day the devil sends us darkness. Every day he sends us darkness to make us afraid. In that moment we have a choice. We can choose to look at our problem, or we can choose to look at our God. And I wish for you today that you look at your God and see that the Lord is our light, giving us no reason to be afraid of darkness.